So where did we leave this yesterday? I guess I'm supposed to be talking about okay, now how do I explain this? Now, conventional method, I'd have to go straight into this whole, the soil has layers, and, it's got this, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to introduce you to something I often say. It's called clumping and clustering. So clumping and clustering, in context of the gardening, the work that I do with clients, it's something I do because I feel it's aesthetically, it's more pleasing, and it's what I've observed in nature. So to put context to it, let's look at atoms. So within atoms, you'll find there are particles clustering. The atoms themselves cluster into molecules, and molecules into compounds, and then you have the amino acids, the proteins, the lipids, and then next thing you know, you have living cells, and then the cells cluster into organisms, and organisms into groups or societies with like so-called like they have relationships, they have arrangements that sort of work in their favor. So we as humans, we cluster with chickens and cows, and create these little groups of beings. Now this you will observe all across the universe. Even, look at the solar system, look at galaxies, they're all doing that. There's this weird kind of, and I have this feeling that it's because there's stability in it, and it also leads to evolution. So within an organism itself, so within a human body, for example, you have, again, there's clustering going on your skin, inside your gut, all over your body. And even evolution, there are loads of theories that suggest that there's been mix of DNA between say viruses and bacteria and human cells, like that's led to the human, this clustering and clumping of different things. Yes, so in context of the soil, this is what you will observe. You will observe different types of particles of varying shapes clustered with different types of so-called living beings, all clustered together, this whole, in a way that it leaves these little gaps, and that's where air and soil, water sort of plugs in the gaps, and that provides there's a working relationship between the water, the air, the living bits, and the so-called mineral bits, exchange of I want to call it energy, because whether you call it mineral, as in it's magnesium, it's nitrates, sulfates, blah blah blah, ultimately there's it's easier to understand if you see all of these things as forms of energy, and there's an exchange that happens. And I suppose the basic question is why does this clustering happen? Because it makes sense. It's no different from women going to the toilet together. Why do they do that? Because you can exchange, share each other's makeup. You can make sure your friend doesn't say yes to your boyfriend, and there are lots of benefits in it. So with regard to plants and how they work with the soil and all the constituents of the soil, what you need to understand is, without this balance, this arrangement that nature has worked toward through, millions and millions of years, it doesn't really, it's never at its healthiest. And that's what's wrong with the world. We've sort of amended how, we're not working in line with nature, basically. We've sort of, assumed that we can do it better, and we really can't unless we work with nature and then build on it, right? Because we are also part of nature, so we're tools of nature too. So we need to sort of reevaluate how we approach the subject, and yes. So why doesn't your plant thrive in the ground? It is because it's probably deprived of one of these elements. It could be the mineral elements, it's not quite optimal. It could be the living beings that you need to sort of work with the elements that are present, make it, make it easier for the plant to absorb nutrients it needs. And the dead matter itself, I mean, I wouldn't say it's more important than the life that's in it, because it really feeds each other. They really do work together. Mm. And when you extend this to container planting, I find a lot of people, they come to me saying they have brown fingers and they keep killing plants. And the reason this happens is really because the soil in the pot isn't healthy. It probably doesn't have enough microbes in it. It doesn't have all these, fungus and bacteria. It doesn't have enough of it. It doesn't have the right ones either. The clay in the soil makes it all sticky and gunky, and when you water, it either gets really gunky. If you don't water enough, it gets as hard as rock. So the roots are not happy, and it's a kind of slow death. And the same applies with the soil in the ground, because we've sort of abused the land. Our water tables, there's no water retention, there's no water infiltration. It really doesn't go through, it just literally just flows off as if it were the ground is made of marble. It flows straight to the rivers and oceans. Yes, so the thought I'd like to sort of inspire in you is let's see. What would I like you to think about today? The clumping. So just observe in your environment, right? Just notice how people cluster together. And it really is like a bunch of naked people clustering, right? So you have the chubby ones, the skinny ones, the bony ones, and in the middle of that you'll have 100 other varieties of creatures, everybody just clustered together. And that's what you will observe around you. You will find all these things. So think of the tables and the furniture, all of it. In the end, we're all clustering. And this should help you relate better to the soil. Other than that, there are certain other aspects I could talk about, like the electromagnetic field around your body and around Earth, and how there's a lot of exchange of various things between the ground and you. But I think I'll leave that for another day. That's it for today. And that's it. So see you next time.